Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Midland Reporter-Telegram's weekly football report. Here we're talking District 3-5A with Jonathan Hull, the new guy on the staff. I know it's not the Steers.
Get used to it.
He's trying to get used to the fact this is a Big Spring native. Worked in Big Spring for the last couple of years, covering his beloved Steers, so it's kind of tough for him this year. He's going to be covering the Bulldogs of Midland High. First week 0 this week. UAL's always confusing me on week 0, week 1, whatever. It's the first week of the football season. Let's start off right at the bat. Midland High versus Amarillo High will be playing here on Friday night at Grande Communications Stadium, Midland High. I guess the question of the moment is, and I'm not quite sure what's happening with that, but who's going to be starting at quarterback for the Bulldogs?
Your guess is as good as mine right now. Coach Yenser knows. He's made up his mind. He's not releasing it to the public quite yet. Been trying to call him actually all day and figure out exactly if it's going to be Kier Woods or Jake Hollifield, but he's just not certain. Well, he's certain. He's just not certain. He wants to let the public know he's certain right now. So,
what did you see last Friday from both of those guys?
Well, you can definitely tell that if Hollifield's going to be the quarterback, they use the shotgun a little bit more. They try to throw the ball up more, and they like those bubble screens, the tunnel screens with the wide receivers to really open it up and get those playmakers into space. Kier, it's more of a balance. You see I formation with the option and just, pure handoffs to Tyler Middleton or Jacoby Webster at running back. And then he's also in the shotgun, too, doing some of that option read type stuff.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, you know what? Knowing Coach Yenser, he may not make a decision until Friday. He probably knew 3 weeks ago. And he may not make a decision until Friday. But real quick, what can we expect out of the Bulldogs? No matter who is at quarterback, the guy who should get the ball a lot should be Tyler Middleton, right?
And Tyler was impressive in the scrimmage against El Paso Americas last week. And he runs. He's got good balance. He's got enough power, and we know about his speed. I don't know what his 40 is, but I know he runs a sub-11 100 meters. He's a regional qualifier the last 2 years, and was 100th of a second away from being a state qualifier.
Right.
So You're talking about a kid that's got game-breaking speed every time he touches the ball.
Right.
And even if he's not getting the ball, the backup Jacoby Webster impressed me to no end. Just a junior, and just every time he got the ball, big things happened. Had a 70-yard touchdown run right up the middle. He's something special, and they can't keep him off the field.
Right. We'll get to that pick here in a little bit. A couple of the other 5 games going on this week. District 3-5A, Lee versus El Paso Montwood. Lee makes the trip out to the Socorro Athletic Complex out in El Paso. Abilene High will take on Belton down in San Antonio. Wichita Falls Ryder will face Abilene Cooper. Odessa High will travel to Arlington to face off against Arlington Bowie, and Odessa Permian will travel down north of San Antonio to Comal County to take on Smithson Valley. And an interesting little twist on that one, former league coach Randy Quisenberry and Permian assistant. Randy Quisenberry is now an assistant at Smithson Valley. He's there for his second year. So that could be an interesting dynamic. Real quick, Jonathan, we'll get into our picks, and then we'll get to your game last here so we can talk a little bit more about that. First of all, let's start off with Odessa Permian and Smithson Valley. What do you think is going to happen in that game, and give me a score?
Well, Smithson Valley just moved down to 4A from Class 5A. Didn't make the playoffs last year in Class 5A. I think it's the first time since 1995 or something like that for them to not be in the playoffs. They're a 4A team for the first time since earlier this past decade. I like Permian in this game. I think Smithson Valley still got a lot of questions to answer, and I think you're going to see a high-scoring affair, though, something like 45-38 Permian.
I kind of like Smithson Valley in this one. I'm still a little skeptical of Permian in their defense. We'll see what happens. I think Smithson Valley is going to win 24-20. Odessa High, Arlington Bowie. Interesting test for the Broncos. If last year's Broncos team would have went, it might have been a little bit different. But this year, they got a lot of work to do.
Well, and to replace Taylor Teagarden, how do you replace a quarterback like that who's been your starter for the last 3 years? And, was everything the district MVP last year. But Bradley Marquez is somebody we're all talking about in the office. I think 3 out of the 5 of us picked him as the player of the year in the area. So Marquez this is kind of a debut for him. I expect a good debut for him, but I got to give the edge to Bowie. I think they've got the Broncos number in this one. I'll say 28-24.
I like Arlington Bowie in this one. I think Bowie's a little more experienced, has a little more speed than Odessa High does, and I think they'll do a good job of containing Marquez. I think it's going to be 45-21. And then Abilene Cooper will take on Wichita Falls Ryder. They're trekked back into Class 5A. This could be interesting to see. Abilene Cooper could be playing with a chip on their shoulder, knowing where a lot of people have picked them.
Yeah, well, and nobody's giving them any credit for what they did at 4A. Keep in mind, that team at 4A, Last year, they didn't lose to a 4A team until the playoffs. They lost to Denton Geyer, and Geyer's now a 5A squad themselves. So they dominated a 4A. The games they lost last year were at Garland and Abilene High, and then there was another 5A. I think it was Hebron mixed in there too. And you're talking about good playoff teams at the 5A level. They're going to compete. They're going to compete in this district. They got to replace Ryan Heslip, great quarterback, all-time leading quarterback at Cooper. But with what they've got in Devon Riddick, Alfred Cooper at running back, they've got enough. And they can beat Ryder. Coach Scott Ponder up there at Ryder, Wichita Falls, some old stomping grounds for me too. And Ponder's, he's got a lot to replace right now and to figure out with Ryder and get that program going back to where it was. I like Cooper pretty big in this one, 31-10.
I like Cooper in this one as well. I kind of agree with Jonathan. I think it's probably going to be 35-10. Abilene High, the defending Class 5A Division II state champs, will take on Belton in San Antonio. Everybody's picking Abilene High. I think they were ranked number 1 in a recent ESPN poll for the nation. Mm-hmm. So they've got some stuff on their shoulders this year. How bad do you think Abilene High is going to win this one?
I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I mean, Belton's a good team, right? I mean, they're not a bad squad. Abilene High returns a lot of talent from last year. They lost some offensive linemen. They get those guys replaced, and with the skill positions they got with the Sims boys, ain't no reason to think this team can't go back to the state title. So I'll take Abilene High in this one. We'll go to the tune of 42-30.
I like Abilene High in this one in about 31 to 21. I think it's going to be a close game. Plus Abilene High is going to be playing to prove they can win another one. Now we get to the Midland schools. Lee will take on El Paso Montwood out in El Paso. Lee gets to make the road trip out there, facing an interesting Montwood team that's had some success over the last couple years, and they have had some success against Lee 2 years ago. So I mean, is this going to be a game, for Lee to maybe turn some heads?
It should be a good game. I think it'll be a close game. Morton, I think, has got his kids ready, though. I have a lot of respect for what Morton does and for what he does with the personnel that he has. I think Adrian Horton's going to be fine at quarterback. He's got some big targets, including Corey McPherson to throw to, a wide receiver. I think the Lee offense is going to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to miss as much of a beat as some might think it might at the start of the season. I like Lee in this one. I think it's close, 31-28.
I like El Paso Montwood in this one. There's a lot of question marks on Lee's defensive and interior lines on the offensive side of the football. I like Montwood to win this one, 21-14. It's going to be a really low-scoring game. Now for your game Friday night, Grande Communications Stadium, the second game of the ASCO Midland Football Madness. Big question here. Obviously, Amarillo High's got James Castleman coming back, and he gave Midland High fits last year in that game down here at Grande. But do you think Midland High's offense has enough to be able to score enough points? Because I think their defense will play well.
Well, I talked to Coach Enzer about Castleman and how you scheme against him. He says, we've got to run more at him. He's so good at running down the field. That's his biggest strong point, is he runs so well, and he gets to the edges that we just got to make sure we always got a hat on him, probably 2 hats on him at a time, and to get him out. But they think they got to run at him. Right now, the running game is the best option Midland High has. It really is. Tyler Middleton, Jacoby Webster, those guys got to figure in. The Midland High defense, though, is really where this is at. They were dominant against El Paso Americas, and that was a good test for them. Americas returned all 11 starters from a year ago. This is an offense that really knew what they were doing going in. They ran a lot of different schemes, and you can't I can't take anything away from Midland High's first team defense, not giving up anything. And the second team defense didn't give up much except for a 65-yard pass play. That's the only time they got burned. Other than that, they were dominant themselves. So I like Midland High's defense. I think they're dominant enough. I think they're deep enough. And I think Midland High can pull out kind of a low-scoring affair. I'll go 20-14.
I like Midland High in this one. I think Midland High's defense is going to carry this team for the first couple weeks of the season until they get their offensive bugs shaken out. But also remember, Amarillo High has a new coach in Mel Maxfield, bringing in the wing tee, so there's not going to be a lot of balls in the air from Amarillo High tomorrow. With that, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game as well. I think it's going to be 17-13 Midland High. Jonathan, thanks for joining us here today on the MRT's District 358 Report. I'm Len Hayward. Thank you.